Arjuna said, O the mighty-armed, O Rishikesh, master of the senses and slayer of demons, I am curious to learn the principles of relinquishment and of renunciation. The Lord said, Whereas numerous scholars use renunciation for the giving up of coveted deeds, many others of mature judgment use relinquishment to name the abnegation of the fruits of all action.
Yeah.
While many erudite men insist that since all actions are vile, they ought to be forsaken, other scholars proclaim that deeds such as yagya, charity, and penance ought not to be forsaken. Listen, O the best of Bharat, Arjuna, to my notion of renunciation, and of how, O you, the unmatched among men, this renunciation is said to be of three kinds. Rather than forsaking them, deeds such as yagya, charity, and penance ought certainly to be undertaken as a duty, for yagya, charity, and penance are deeds that redeem men of wisdom. It is my considered belief, O Parth, that these deeds, as also all others, ought certainly to be accomplished after forsaking attachment and desire for the fruits of labor. And, since the requisite action ought not to be abandoned, forsaking it out of some misconception is deemed as renunciation of the nature of ignorance, tamas. He who rashly forgoes action under the assumption that all of it is grievous, or out of fear of physical suffering, is deprived of the merits of his relinquishment. Only that relinquishment is esteemed righteous, O Arjuna, which is ordained and practiced with the conviction that doing it after having forsaken attachment and fruits of labor is a moral commitment. Gifted with flawless moral excellence and freedom from doubt, one who neither abhors deeds that are unpropitious, nor is enamored of those that are propitious, is wise and self-denying. Since the abandonment of all action by an embodied being is impossible, the one who has given up the fruits of action is credited with having practiced relinquishment. Whereas the triple returns, good, bad, and mixed, of covetous people's actions issue forth even after death, the actions of people who have renounced all do not ever bear any fruits. Learn well from me, O the mighty-armed Arjuna, the 5 principles that Sankhya acknowledges as accomplishers of all action. In respect of this, there are the prime mover, the several agents, the varied endeavors, the sustaining power, and likewise the 5th means, that is providence. These are the 5 causes of whatever action a man accomplishes with his mind, speech, and body, either in accordance with or even in contravention of Scripture. Despite this, however, he who out of his immature judgment views the consummate, detached self as the doer, is dull-minded, and he sees not. Though he may slay, the man who is liberated from conceit and whose mind is unsullied is neither a killer nor bound by his action. Whereas the way of securing knowledge, the worthwhile knowledge, and the knower constitute the threefold inspiration to action, the doer, the agents, and the action itself are the threefold constituents of action. Listen to me well on how even knowledge and action and the doer have been graded into 3 kinds each in the Sankhya philosophy of properties, or gun. O Arjuna, you should know that knowledge as immaculate, sattvic, by which one perceives the reality of the indestructible God as an undivided entity in all divided beings. Know that knowledge as tainted by passion, by which one perceives divided entities in all separate beings. And know that knowledge as besmirched by ignorance, or tamas, which adheres to the body alone, as if it were the whole truth, and which is irrational, unfounded on truth, and petty. That action is said to be immaculate, which is ordained and embarked on with detachment, by one who is free from infatuation, as well as loathing, and who does not aspire to any reward. And that action is said to be of the nature of passion, which is strenuous and entered upon by one who covets rewards and is egotistic. That action is said to be unenlightened, which is taken up out of sheer ignorance and with disregard for outcome, loss to oneself and injury to others, as well as for one's own competence. That doer is said to be of immaculate nature, who is free from attachment, who does not indulge in arrogant speech, and who is endowed with patience and vigor, as well as unswayed by success and failure. That doer is said to be of the attribute of passion, who is impulsive, covetous of the fruits of action, acquisitive, pernicious, vitiated, and subject to joy and sorrow. That doer is said to be of the attribute of ignorance, who is fickle, uncouth, vain, devious, spiteful, dispirited, lazy, and procrastinating. Listen to me too, O Dhananjay, Arjun, on the threefold classification according to the properties of nature, as I make them exhaustively and respectively, of intellect, steadfastness, and happiness. That intellect is immaculate, O Parth, which is aware of the essence, of the way of inclination, as also of renunciation, of worthy and unworthy action, of fear and fearlessness, and of bondage and liberation. That intellect is of the nature of passion and moral blindness, O Parth, by which one cannot even know the righteous and the unrighteous, as well as what is worthy or unworthy of being done. That intellect is of the nature of ignorance, O Parth, which is enveloped in darkness, and which apprehends the sinful as virtuous, and views everything in a distorted way. That resolute steadfastness by which, O Parth, one governs through the practice of yoga, operations of the mind, the life breaths, and the senses, is immaculate. That steadfastness, O Parth, by which the avaricious man holds fast and acquisitively to obligations, wealth, and pleasure, is of the nature of passion and moral blindness. And that steadfastness, O Parth, by which the evil-minded man declines to forsake sloth, fear, worry, grief, and also arrogance, is of the nature of ignorance. Now listen to me, O the best of Bharat, Arjun, on how even happiness, which one comes to dwell in by practice, and thus achieve the cessation of griefs, is also of three kinds. That happiness, which is at first like poison, but finally tastes like nectar, for it issues forth from the lucidity of an intellect that has realized the self, is of an impeccable nature. That happiness, which springs from the association of the senses with their objects, and which is like nectar at the beginning, but like gall at the end, is said to be tainted with passion and moral blindness. That happiness, which both initially and finally beguiles the self, and which arises from slumber, lethargy, and negligence, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. There is no being, either on earth or among the dwellers of heaven, who is entirely free from the three properties born of nature. The duties of Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, as also of Shudra, are determined by properties that are born out of their nature. Self-restraint, subduing of the senses, innocence, continence, mercy, uprightness, piety, true knowledge, and direct perception of divinity are the Brahman's province, born out of his nature. Valor, majesty, dexterity, unwillingness to retreat in battle, charity, and sovereignty are the natural province of a Kshatriya. Farming, protection of cows, the senses, and commerce are the natural province of a Vaishya, whereas rendering service is the natural calling of a Shudra. Commitment to his own inborn duty brings man to the ultimate accomplishment, and you should listen to me on how a man achieves perfection through dedication to his innate calling. By adoration of that God who has created all beings and who pervades the whole universe, through the undertaking of his natural calling, man attains to final accomplishment. Even though unmeritorious, one's own native calling is superior to the office of others, for a man carrying out his natural obligation does not bring sin upon himself. One's innate duty ought not to be forsaken, O son of Kunti, even if it is blemished, because all actions are impaired by some flaw or the other, as fire is shrouded by smoke. He whose intellect is aloof all round, who is without desire, and who has conquered his mind, attains to the ultimate state that transcends all action through renunciation. Learn in brief from me, O son of Kunti, of how one who is immaculate achieves realization of the Supreme Being, which represents the culmination of knowledge. Blessed with a pure intellect, firmly in command of the self, with objects of sensual gratification like sound forsaken, with both fondness and revulsion destroyed, dwelling in seclusion, eating frugally, subdued in mind, speech, and body, incessantly given to the yoga of meditation, firmly resigned, giving up conceit, arrogance of power, yearning, ill humor, and acquisitiveness, devoid of attachment, and in possession of a mind at repose, a man is worthy of becoming one with God. In this serene tempered man, who views all beings equally, who abides intently in the Supreme Being, neither grieving over nor hankering after anything, there is fostered a faith in me that transcends all else. Through his transcendental faith, he knows my essence well, what my reach is, and having thus known my essence, he is at once united with me. Although engaged in action wholeheartedly, one who finds refuge in me achieves the everlasting, indestructible, final bliss. Earnestly resigning all your deeds to me, finding shelter in me, and embracing the yoga of knowledge, you should ever fix your mind on me. Ever resting on me, you will be saved from all afflictions and gain deliverance, but you shall be destroyed if out of arrogance you do not pay heed to my words. Your egotistic resolve not to fight is surely mistaken, for your nature will compel you to take up arms in the war. Bound by your natural calling, even against your resolve, O son of Kunti, you will have to undertake the deed you are reluctant to do because of your self-deception. Propelling all living things that bestride a body, which is but a contrivance, by his Maya, O Arjun. God abides in the hearts of all beings. Seek refuge with all your heart, O Bharat Arjun, in that God by whose grace you will attain to repose and the everlasting ultimate bliss. Thus have I imparted to you the knowledge which is the most mysterious of all abstruse learning. So reflect well on the whole of it, and then you may do as you wish. Listen yet again to my most secret words, indeed felicitous, that I am going to speak to you because you are the dearest to me. I give you my sincere pledge, because you are so dear to me, that you must attain to me if you keep me in mind, adore me, worship me, and bow in obeisance to me. Grieve not, for I shall free you from all sins if you abandon all other obligations and seek refuge in me alone. This Geeta, which has been articulated for you, must never be made known to one who is bereft of penance, devotion, and of willingness to listen, as also to one who speaks ill of me. The one who, with firm devotion to me, imparts this most secret teaching to my worshippers, will doubtlessly attain to me. Neither is there among mankind any doer who is dearer to me than this man, nor will there be any in the world who is dearer to me than him. And it is my belief that I shall have been worshipped through the yagya of knowledge by one who makes a thorough study of this sacred dialogue between us. Even he will be freed from sins who just hears the Gita with devoutness and without any ill will, and he will secure the worlds of the righteous. Have you, O Parth, listened intently to my words, and, O Dhananjay, is your delusion born out of ignorance dispelled? Arjun said, Since my ignorance has been dispelled by your grace, O Achyut, and I have recovered discernment, I am free from doubt, and shall follow your precepts. Sanjay said, Thus have I heard the mysterious and sublime dialogue of Vasudev Krishna and the sage-like Arjun. It is by the blessing of the most revered Vyas that I have heard this transcendental, most mysterious yoga enunciated directly by the Lord of Yoga, Krishna himself. The recollection of the felicitous and marvelous colloquy between Keshav Krishna and Arjun transports me, O King Dhritarashtra, to sublime joy, time after time. Recalling the amazing visage of the Lord again and again, O King, I am lost in wonder and ecstasy over and over. Good fortune, conquest, splendor, and steadfast wisdom abide wherever are Lord Krishna and the noble archer Arjun. Such is my conviction.